This video is sponsored by Audio. More about them a little bit later. Having a space that feels inspiring is probably a lifelong dream for a lot of creatives. Over the years, I've adapted to this YouTuber, creator, filmmaker life, experimenting with different setups and studios, and now I think I finally have a space that feels just right. In this video, I'm going to take you through not only my new studio makeover, but I'll show you exactly how I light, record, and the exact gear that I use to make these A-roll shots for my YouTube videos. What's up, nerds? Welcome back to the channel. Now, my wife and I have been married for 4.5 years, which is about the same time that I've been making videos on this channel. I started making videos in our tiny one-bedroom apartment, filming those videos in our living room. Then I moved to a spare bedroom in our second apartment, and after buying our first house over a year ago, I've been transforming this loft area into my creative space. Now, originally this loft space had plain white walls, a few posters, and some nostalgia pieces. But at the end of last year, I wanted to switch things up a little bit and create a whole new vibe for not only my A-roll shots, but also investing in just the overall mood of the space, given that I do spend a majority of my day in this room making videos. So after a few weeks of making a couple trips to Home Depot, Lowe's, IKEA, and way too many Amazon orders, I painted the walls, rearranged the furniture, added peel and stick wallpaper, and mounted some acoustic wood slats, which, let's be honest, are purely for aesthetic appeal because most likely they're gonna go out of style in like 5 years. But redoing this space meant rethinking my lighting and video setup. But before we get into the details, let me give you a quick tour. All right, here's a quick little tour of the new studio. Let me walk you through. Let's start right here. So not only do I love filmmaking and camera shiz, but I also love records and collecting. So I do have a bunch of different records. I know all the audiophiles are gonna get mad at me about not having vintage records in this collection. I like to listen to albums I know I'm gonna listen to front to back. So, I got stuff from Turnover, Bleachers, Laney, a little bit of Taylor Swift, don't judge me, okay? Have stuff from like The Format, bands that I really love, and obviously the most important album in this entire collection, the Shrek soundtrack. And then the sound system that I'm running this entire thing on is from Klipsch. So I got Klipsch reference speakers, and then an Audio-Technica LP120X USB. This is a bronze model. This was definitely a splurge. Bleachers is a band that I've been following since literally day one. I remember when they came out with Roller Coaster as a single, and I've just been a huge fan of Jack Antonoff. So this is a limited edition release of their most recent album. Right here, these are our pieces designed by local artists here in Utah. This is Adventure Time. Obviously, it's a show I've been watching since I was like 10, and I love Adventure Time with all my heart. And then Star Wars from Anthony Romwell did these. He's also a local artist. Acoustic wood slats, some Disney books. I love Disney Imagineering and the art design behind the parks. No, I'm not a Disney adult, but we did have annual passes for a while and we go pretty often. I have a bunch of movie posters, as you'll see in here. I designed them myself. Dune is a movie more of a recent movie that I really enjoy. I think the second one kind of lacked a little bit, but I'm a big fan of Greg Fraser, and obviously I wanted to have specific names to recognize not just the actors, but also the people that worked on set. And then this is just a storage closet with more gear. This side is probably the side I'm most proud of right now. I've always wanted to have like a camera building station and a place where I could just come over, build up camera rigs, build up camera setups, and just be ready to go whenever I needed to. So I got gaff tape on the pegboard. I've got XLR cables and all the gear that I would need to build up camera rigs. Nostalgia pieces on top. So Lego camera to represent 100 years at Disney, and then an Instamatic Mickey-matic. Film camera doesn't work. Film camera doesn't work. One that does work. And then obviously Shrek 2 on DVD. I am in the process of collecting SSC vintage Canon FD lenses to make a whole set, and then film cameras that do work and I use often. And then right here, this is an area that has been asked about multiple times on TikTok. I do have a charging wall, but this does V-mount, Sony battery packs, USB-C for the MC lights, and Sony LP batteries, and a ton of AC ports for charging charging other stuff. And that moves us on to my editing setup. Right now I'm running on PC. So I have this behemoth of a custom PC that has pretty old gear in it. It's about 3 years old right now. And I got two 27-inch monitors on an IKEA table, as well as a USB interface and two M audio speakers, and then two more movie posters that I designed myself. Got Bradford Young, Greg Fraser, just beautiful cinematographers, beautiful work. More acoustic wood slats here. George for a bunch of shiz. Xbox controller. And then this is what I use to record most of my A-roll. I'll talk about this a little bit more specifically later, but this is kind of the setup I've been going with lately for A-roll. And yeah, that's about it. Now, before we move on to camera gear and audio, I want to give a quick shout out to Audio for sponsoring today's video. Now, if you're a filmmaker or content creator, you know how important great music is. The wrong track can absolutely kill a scene, but the right one, well, it can take your video to the next level. Audio offers a highly curated catalog of real music from real artists with new tracks added daily. Right now, you can get lifetime access to their entire music library and sound effects for just $199. No subscriptions, no renewals, just a one-time payment. That's like $300 off their regular price, by the way. Now, I've been using Audio for over a year for not only my YouTube channel and social media, but also some client work. And their library has everything from cinematic scores, sound effects, and my personal favorite, lo-fi beats. And for Audio Pro users, you have access to AI search features to make finding the right music for your video easier than ever, as well as their new mobile app for on-the-go listening. Recently, a friend and I were trying to concept some ideas while we were at lunch for a commercial that we're working on. So in order to get some inspiration, we both popped in some headphones and just scrolled through a bunch of the songs on the app. Not only did this help us multitask a little bit, but we were able to find a bunch of different options for songs for the project we're working on. If you want to check it out, you can use my link in the description and use code GLEASON199 at checkout. That one-time payment, in my opinion, is such a great deal. One-time payments are 100% the way to go. Anyway, make sure you check out Audio, and big thanks to them for sponsoring this video. Now, the first thing I considered when coming into this space was natural light. This room does have a single window, and believe it or not, it brings in a lot more light than you'd expect. But the main problem is it changes throughout the day. In fact, just recording this video, most likely this light is going to change off and on. Now, I could film these A-roll videos at night for consistency, but I actually like the natural light that comes in the background, so I try to work around it the best I can. To soften that harsh sunlight a little bit, I use some bleach muslin cloth from Amazon. These sheets are an absolute game changer. They're super cheap, they're easy to work with, and they provide a beautiful diffusion. If you haven't heard of them, I highly recommend using them for any project. And to avoid the light changing so much, I try to record in the middle of the day or in the morning, but it also depends on weather, and there's just a lot of factors that go into play. But for my key light, I use the Amaran F22C, which is boomed on a C-stand just above my desk and boomed to the left of my face. Keying opposite side of the camera is the technically proper way to light the key side of my face rather than keying my face camera side. It's also motivated a little bit by this practical light in the background and the natural light coming through the window, which is in the frame, meaning that I should follow that motivated light. To soften the light, I use not only the included layer of diffusion, but I also added an extra sheet of unbleached muslin, which I've cut to size and then clipped to the skirt on the light. These flex lights can be a pretty harsh lighting source, so that's why I have all that diffusion in front of it in order for it to be a soft light source on my face. But this setup also keeps the light nice and compact and out of frame. It's not the cheapest light on the market for this type of setup, but for the lights I already owned, this was the most compact solution. This light is set to 6500 Kelvin and usually sits around 30% intensity. Now for the fill light on the opposite side of my face, I use the Amaran 150C and a Light Dome mini softbox on a light stand. The light is currently set to 5000 Kelvin and it's bouncing into a 6x6 sheet of unbleached muslin. That sheet is attached to the ceiling using grommets and magnetic hooks. This setup subtly reduces contrast and adds just a little bit of light on the camera facing side of my face, making the image feel just a little bit more balanced. I also feel like it exposes the background really nicely in order to decrease the heavy contrast that can come from this side, because sometimes the window doesn't fill in enough light, and so this is kind of a backup to not only fill this side of my face, but also fill the background. Now, I do have a few practical lights in the background in order to make this scene just a little more interesting, but I'll say up front, this is extra fluff. You don't need it. The first light that I use is an Amaran PT2C, which is mounted to my pegboard. That light is currently set to a 3200 Kelvin for a little bit warmer of a look. I think this highlights my camera building station really nicely, and it's something that I absolutely want to show off because sometimes I might place some Easter eggs to future videos that I might be working on every once in a while over there. Now, I've invested a lot of time and a lot of money into my audiophile setup, so I think I deserve to show it off a little bit, which is why to make my record setup pop, I use two Aperture M6 frequency lights. One is magnetized to the ceiling with a cyan hue, and one is behind one of the speakers, which is set to an orange hue. I think this adds some nice color to the scene and brings attention to that setup because, let's be real, I think it looks freaking awesome and I'm proud of it. I also change out the featured album over here every video that I make. Just a little Easter egg that you can keep an eye out for if you're a dedicated viewer. Subscribe. But I am a big music fan and I'm always collecting new records. All right, let's talk audio. Because if your sound sucks, all this work that I've put into lighting could potentially be for nothing. And we don't want that to go to waste. It doesn't matter how good your shot looks. If it doesn't sound good, people most likely aren't going to want to continue watching. See, now this window light is messing with me. Clouds are coming in. Right now, I'm currently using the Audio-Technica AT875R, which sits on a little table boom stand right here. This is the microphone I've been using for like almost 2 years now, and it's an absolutely solid microphone, but I have been considering upgrading to either like the Rode NTG5 or the Sennheiser MKH50, but those microphones are like 2 to 3 times the price of this microphone. So I'm trying to justify whether or not it would actually be worth it, but for a $170 microphone here, it sounds pretty dang good. But if I'm on the go doing more outdoor type of content, I'll use the Rode Wireless Pro or DJI Mic 2. When using a boom mic, I'll typically use the Zoom F3 to record my audio. This records in a high quality 32-bit float and just gives a really clean, uncompressed audio that I can make sound extra crispy in post-production. Which, by the way, if you want to know my post-production audio workflow, you can watch this video up here when you get a sec. Now, one problem that I have had with audio since we moved into this space that I just recently fixed is a slight reverb or echo in my recordings. Hopefully you can't hear it right now. If you can, it's probably very minimal because I do have them up for this video. But if you listen closely to some of my past videos on my channel, you might hear a little bit of reverb or echo in my voice. That's because there is a giant stairwell right next to this loft space. We chose to go with an open concept for this loft area when building our house rather than a 4th bedroom. And this kind of caused the area to be a little extra echoey, which, as you can imagine, is not great for recording audio. Now, even though I have found some typically easy ways to clean this up in post-production, I decided to do a $30 solution to the problem instead. With a couple of trips to Lowe's, Harbor Freight, and one Amazon package, I bought 2 7-foot moving blankets with grommets on them, 3 metal plates that can screw into the ceiling, and some magnetic hooks to attach them to those plates. Then I just attached the 2 moving blankets to the hooks, which span the length of this room and cover that hallway. This also lets me put up that unbleached muslin sheet for the fill light. And I think this solution basically fixed the problem. Now I have nearly 0 echo and reverb in my audio, and honestly, I'm really happy with the result. If you haven't discovered moving blankets yet, they're not only a really good audio dampening solution, but they can also work really good as a negative fill in your shot. Now for my A-roll, and this is the part of the setup that's absolutely not budget and is 100% overkill, so just be patient with me. But I personally think it streamlines my workflow to not only make these videos a lot easier to shoot, but also a lot easier to edit. Now I used to shoot on the Sony FX30 with the Viltrox 13mm, but recently I've been using my Sony a7 IV paired with a 35mm full frame Vision Prime lens from Sirui. This lens is brand new. I'm still testing it out. It's a set of 3 beautiful cine lenses that can open up to T1.4. Right now I'm at T2.8, but I think it's a really good lens and I'm really looking forward to testing these even more. I also use a wireless follow focus system from SmallRig. It's not my favorite and I'm currently looking for a better solution for follow focus like the DJI LiDAR or something like that. But I do want to stay with manual focus cine lenses for these shots until I can afford like a really nice G Master full frame lens with a lower f-stop. I also just really like the look of cine lenses. And I want to use the gear I already have, gosh dang it. I also have a Hollyland monitor attached to the camera so I can monitor my shot. And I have an HDMI out that actually runs to this monitor so I can have a little bit bigger of a view and make sure I'm in focus. And if I'm filming something a little more scripted and in-depth with a lot of technical jargon, like this video, I will use a teleprompter. The one I use right now is a super cheap teleprompter from Parrot. It flares super bad and forces me to shoot on tighter lenses, but it does make editing these A-roll videos a lot faster. The entire camera rig is powered with a V-mount battery and sits on a Sirui video tripod. I do record my A-roll in S-Log3 Cine and 4K, and I also shoot at 24 frames per second. Well, that's basically my current setup to make these A-roll shots. Now that I've put this out on paper and started making this video, I'm just now realizing how much work I put in to a single shot in my videos. But now that this is all set up, I can basically be ready to record a video with camera, lighting, and sound within like 5 minutes. So I guess it was all worth it. For 2025, I really do love reviewing gear, but I also love just doing these videos where I talk about my process of how I make videos, going over lighting techniques and, setups and things that I do in order to make great shots, right? That's the type of content that I would love to make more of this year. But before I end this video, I do want to say there are a lot of more affordable alternatives to the gear I have to make this shot. I can imagine there are some people that would look at this and be like, oh my gosh, that's thousands of dollars of gear. I will never be able to afford something like that. Hence, you may think I'll never be able to make a shot like this. I use this gear for lighting and camera because I already had it from other video projects. I still work on sets and I make videos on a daily basis beyond my YouTube channel. And most importantly, this setup works for me. You don't need to use Amaran lights or a fancy camera rig. You could use GVM or Godox lights that are much, much cheaper and will still do a really good job. And you can even use a basic camera or even an iPhone to start making videos. You also don't need RGB or a cool studio to get started. Keep in mind that I've worked up to this point and it's taken me years and a gradual build up to get here. You could also go the complete other direction and go insanely crazy with the lighting and camera gear. I've seen some channels use massive cinema rigs and high-end lighting to make a single post for social media. I guess what I'm trying to say is don't get discouraged. You do you, and I'll do me, I guess. But honestly, I hope this video was helpful for you in inspiring your creative journey. If you have any questions or insight about the new studio space or my journey as a creator, or maybe some new albums I've collected, go ahead and leave a comment down below, as well as check out audio using the description. Remember, right now you can get a lifetime membership using my code. And if you enjoyed this video, maybe watch this video next, and make sure to like, subscribe, hit that bell button so you never miss out on new young filmmaker content. Good luck filmmaking.